The 2025 Qatar Grand Prix just took place, and what a race it was from the perspective of the championship fight. Let's go through how each team and driver has performed, starting with the worst performers of the weekend, ending with the highest scores of the main race, starting with Haas. This is a breath of fresh air because I am tired of covering Alpine as the first team in every Grand Prix review in the 2025 Formula One season. So, positive change nonetheless. So, anyway, Haas, they actually had a good race. Like, they got unlucky in various regards, which we will get to. But both Esteban Ocon and Oliver Behrman, they did have a good race. So initially in the initial phases, in the first one third of the race, they were lucky. They capitalized on the safety car situation, and they both of them were running in the points. Haas is a quick car, and they were managing to hold their own. I mean, overtaking is obviously a nightmare in Middle Eastern tracks, and the Lusail International Circuit is no different. The only Middle Eastern tracks where you can do some racing is, I think, Bahrain. I think apart from that, like, the other ones are just shit. Saudi Arabia is just basically qualifying, and the same is true with Qatar, and Abu Dhabi is also mostly like that, unless you have like a significantly huge amount of tire advantage. So both Ocon and Behrman were actually holding their own, but at the same time, you have to have a little bit of luck in order to bring it home in those point scoring positions. So Esteban Ocon, he had a rolling start. I mean, he was moving before the lights went out. He was just rolling. And in the radio, like in the post-race interviews, he was complaining. He said that it's not my fault. It is your fault. People have been penalized like that. Kimi Antonelli got penalized like that. I think in the previous race, he didn't get any kind of advantage from that, apparent jump start. So you have to slam the brakes right before the start, and you have to release it right at the start. Otherwise, you're going to get yourself a 5-second penalty. And being Esteban Ocon, he served the 5-second penalty incorrectly, and then he had to serve it once again, and then things were over for him. Now, on the other side, for Oliver Behrman, it was just a heartbreak. So dude was doing everything good, and this is one of the issues of... I don't want to say beginner's luck, but at the same time, I think it could be beginner's luck. But, it's no big deal. Oliver Behrman has been on a roll since the last 4 or 5 Grand Prix. He has been scoring points in, I think, last 5 Grand Prix. And judging by the pace and the comfort that he has in the car, I think it's very likely that these two guys will be in contention for scoring some points. Oliver Behrman is more likely to score some points in Abu Dhabi. Not so much... about Esteban Ocon. I hope Oliver realizes his true value and moves to a different team, gets the fuck out of the Ferrari team. Not Ferrari team, but like the Ferrari family. Because he's going to ruin his fucking career like Charles Leclerc. We move on. Alpine. Now, the thing is, the unfortunate situation about Alpine is that the race in which there are only a handful of opportunities for these guys because their car is dog shit, and they have given up on the car a long time ago because they put all of their chips in 2026, which is understandable. We get it. But at the same time, you have to understand, when you have very handful moments or opportunities of realistically scoring points, you will actually score points less than those because there will be unlucky situations like this one. So Pierre Gasly had some great pace, wasn't particularly defending well against Nico Hülkenberg. Nico Hülkenberg had some serious pace, and he wanted to go around the outside of turn 1, didn't quite work out, made that contact. It was a racing incident at the end, which is like a double whammy for Pierre Gasly, because I don't think Gasly did anything wrong. I don't think Nico Hülkenberg also did anything wrong. It's just like a moment of misjudgment. I think it was just the turning was ending there. The track was opening up a little bit for the next corner. And, they just made contact because they just held their position to retain the whatever pace they had in order to, prepare for the next corners and the defense and attacks. Pierre Gasly certainly for attacking, because at that point he was overtaken. So unfortunate. I think his car definitely picked up some damage, and that's one of the main reasons why he finished behind Franco Colapinto. And Franco Colapinto, on the other hand, I don't think he did really have a good performance at all. I think he started from the pit lane, if I'm not wrong, and it's just basically a race to forget, and he was so far behind I didn't really pay any kind of attention to him because a lot of things were happening. Like during the live stream I was just chatting shit about what could happen with the Verstappen and the McLaren situation and a lot of other things. But Franco Colapinto, I mean, you have to impress in order to gain some attention. So I have zero recollection of Franco Colapinto even being in the race. Finished P14, great job from him. We move on. Sauber. All right. So one of the difficult things about Sauber is that actually both of them had a positive weekend. Nico Hülkenberg was, handling his own situation. I think he overtook Charles Leclerc or Lewis Hamilton at one point. I think by pace. I think it was Charles Leclerc. I think he was putting pressure on Charles Leclerc. I think it was Gabriel Bortoleto who was also pressurizing Charles Leclerc or Lewis, like at certain points of stage. So these guys were absolutely quick. And that's the biggest positive that they could take. Unfortunately, they couldn't convert it into points. When Nico Hülkenberg had that crash, he was, I think, P9 and he, crashed out, DNF, 0 points. He was looking quick. He was about to, go through the field step by step. But I guess sacrifices have to be made, and the sacrifice of Nico Hülkenberg when he overtook Pierre Gasly around the outside of turn 1 in order to take him out, triggered the safety car, it helped us win. It helped Max Verstappen win, and now because of that we are one step closer to the world title, the 5th consecutive world title. So it is a sacrifice that I'm willing to make on behalf of Nico Hülkenberg, and it is what it is, man. I mean, it's just the name of the game. One man's bad day is another man's celebration. I mean, this is how it goes sometimes. And Gabriel Bortoleto, happy that he didn't crash, starting way behind from the back. I thought he's going to send it into turn 1, trying to make some overtake that wasn't there. Like his last two Grand Prix. Fortunately, he didn't do that, so great performance by him. Measured drive. Didn't make up that many positions because like a couple of people had penalties. Pierre Gasly had a lot of damage. Not a lot of damage, but significant amount of damage. Then Isaac Hadjar in the later stages of the race had damage. There were a few DNFs. So Gabriel Bortoleto's performance wasn't also that impressive. The only people behind Gabriel at P13 was, I think, Franco Colapinto, who is shit, then Pierre Gasly, who had damage, and then Esteban Ocon, who had a bunch of penalties, and all the other guys who got DNF'd. So I genuinely don't think Gabriel Bortoleto did justice to whatever performance was in that car. So overall, from that regard, the strategy was a mistake. Not the strategy was a mistake, but I don't think the pace management was proper. He was also stuck behind, like he was also a part of the Fernando Alonso DRS train. So that also could have had an impact, but it is what it is. You have to do something. But Nico Hülkenberg's shame. He looked like he had great pace, and unfortunately he was the sacrificial lamb that will help us get to our 5th consecutive world title. We move on. Racing Bulls. Now, this is incredible in the sense that Liam Lawson, when he looks like he's not going to score any points, scores some points. And when Isaac Hadjar, and this is not the first time Isaac Hadjar had a good qualifying that he didn't convert. I think in China also, the 2nd Grand Prix of the season, he out-qualified Yuki Tsunoda in his 2nd fucking race. And then the car got damaged for some reason. And then he couldn't bring it home in points. Like something like that happened. I think there were a few other instances where Isaac Hadjar did a tremendous job in qualifying but got DNF'd, not because of his fault. But anyway, on the other side, Liam Lawson, great drive from him, great performance. Actually, he just got lucky. He just didn't lose any track position, didn't gain any track position during the safety car shuffle, because the 3 positions that he gained, one is Pierre Gasly, one is his teammate Isaac Hadjar, and the one is Nico Hülkenberg who DNF'd. So started 12th, finished P9, didn't really do any overtake, didn't really undercut or overcut anyone, he didn't do much. If you want to make one of those did nothing, scored some points type of meme, Liam Lawson is your perfect target for the 2025 Qatar Grand Prix, is all I'm going to say. But anyway, Liam Lawson, decent performance, great performance. He was, he was a part of the Fernando Alonso DRS train, so his position was set. There's not much he could have done anyways, because all the midfield cars are properly and closely matched, and overtaking in Qatar is a fucking nightmare. So he did what he had to. Just glad that he didn't lose any other positions. Had a decent start, so finished in the points. Great job from him. We move on. Ferrari, the glorified midfield team. These motherfuckers are only concerned about looking pretty in front of camera, allowing their brand to be used by celebrities for fame whoring, gain some Instagram likes, that sort of thing. And they're just concerned with selling merch and taking pictures and organizing fashion shows and basking in their past glory, and showing pictures of the supercars that nobody really likes to buy anymore because they're shit in Formula 1. And that's basically is all the things that these motherfuckers are trying to do, and right now it's not even funny. I mean, there are moments in which it's so sad and painful that it is funny, but at this moment it's like, come on man, what the fuck are we doing? What the fuck are we doing? So the car was an absolute shitbox. Obviously, people were not allowed to say because it's a Ferrari, and that's the stigma that is hurting them. If you're not allowed to accept the reality, then you will never confront reality, and your actions will never be based on reality, which means you will always be shit. This is something, it's a very fundamental philosophical thing, and it's a very obvious principle through which you should live your life. And unfortunately, the dumb low IQ engineers in Maranello, Italy, they don't get it. So Leclerc said this, Lewis said this, right after the qualifying session. Lewis said it on the radio that how the fuck are we P17? How the fuck the changes that we made to the car made it even worse? Then during the race, like both of them had also the similar type of situation, because Riccardo Adami was saying to Hamilton that the pace is good and whatever, and Lewis is stop saying that we are fucking slow, our pace is not good. Charles Leclerc was also being told by Brian Bossy that we are quickest in turn 12 and all that type of stuff, and Charles is like, man, shut the fuck up, I know that I'm slow, we ain't gonna do much. So if you're Ferrari and you're trying to hold up to P8, struggling to hold, because Nico Hülkenberg was a motherfucker in that tire. So if Nico Hülkenberg and all those other guys, including Pierre Gasly and Oliver Behrman, all those guys were here in the race, I don't think either of the Ferraris would have finished in the points. Leclerc being in the points and Lewis Hamilton being P12, again an absolutely unimpressive performance by the aging star. I mean, it looks decent. Hamilton started P17, finished P12. Look at the people who were behind Hamilton. It was fucking the people who DNF'd, then Pierre Gasly, then Esteban Ocon, and then Gabriel Bortoleto. Those are the people who are behind Lewis Hamilton. It's not a good performance at all. And the same thing is true for Charles Leclerc. It's just he was in the right place at the right time. The pace of the car was nowhere. He was running off track. He was struggling to keep the Ferrari on track. That's how shit the car is. So yeah, last year they were 14 points off of the Constructors' Champions McLaren and took the fight all the way down to the wire, where both of the drivers finished on the podium. Leclerc and Sainz were on the podium alongside Lando Norris. This year, these motherfuckers are P4. They are outscored by Max Verstappen, a single driver with a shit car. The Red Bull is not that good of a car, guys. We have to admit it at this stage. The Red Bull is absolutely unpredictable. Start of the weekend, the Red Bull engineers have zero idea what the fuck they're doing with the car. They just figure it out along the way, and they just bank on other people's misfortunes. That's how one man beat Ferrari in the constructor standings. It's unfucking believable. I mean, I'm not even sad about Lewis Hamilton because he had his career. He is a legend of the sport. 7 world titles, most amount of wins. I think maximum pole positions and podiums as well. His career is done and dusted. He's now, going for the cherry on top, which I don't think he's going to get with Ferrari. What he's going to do is he's going to retire from, he's going to leave Ferrari, trying to have a couple of years in Aston Martin. In hindsight, Lewis should have gone to Williams. At least he would have had fun. Just have fun racing. In Ferrari, you will not even have that. The expectations are dominating a season, but in reality, these motherfuckers are struggling to get even to the points. Forget points. They're even struggling to keep the car properly on track. That's the state of the situation. There's nothing much to say. I don't want to comment on anyone's performance because there is not much performance in the car. Leclerc has been vocal about it. Lewis Hamilton has been vocal about it. Let's see what John Elkann has to say, because that's the only person whose voice matters. And if he goes ahead and says that we need a new team principal, then Fred Vasseur is going to get fired again. And, we will have to restart the cycle once again. Anyway, we move on. Aston Martin. Difficult weekend for Lance Stroll as usual. I think it's his third consecutive DNF. Very difficult for him, and and extremely poor in qualifying, as per. But Fernando Alonso, on the other hand, great performance by him and a great drive. So he was P8, and I think at one point he was P9. He lost a couple of positions to the faster cars around him, and he was holding his own. He had a spin all by himself. Fortunately, because it's Qatar, kind of like the track in France, like there are no tech pro barriers, it's just open, so he didn't have a moment. So great performance by him in terms of managing pace, defending against the DRS train, lining up behind him, and ultimately finishing P7. So he also capitalized one step, which I think is Isaac Hadjar, as he had the puncture and he was tumbling down back. The great Fernando Alonso, I think, gained a position in that in that situation. And overall a great performance by him. All he had to do was not to lose any kind of track position for whatever reason, because overtaking, like I said, is a nightmare. So executed the pit stops properly. Great defensive driving as per Fernando, and a amazing chunk of points in Qatar. Scored a decent P7. We move on. Mercedes. Now the thing about Mercedes is that both of them had a great race. Both of them had a phenomenal race, especially Andrea Kimi Antonelli, because he was defending the shit out of his car against Lando Norris, a much faster McLaren. And McLaren is so aerodynamically stable. It's unbelievable. When McLaren is in dirty air, Lando had zero problem coming close to Kimi and overtaking him. He has zero problem with it. The same thing with But if you look at the pace of the Mercedes in dirty air, for example, George Russell's pace when Isaac Hadjar had a puncture, he said it himself right in the post-race interview. If you go and check it out again, Russell says that after Hadjar had a puncture and I had clean air, he was 1.5 faster. He was like nearly a second faster. But Kimi Antonelli was struggling for life to defend against Lando Norris behind him. Anyway, the thing is, he had a great defense. He defended for I think 10 laps. And Kimi Antonelli's defense actually in a way helped Max Verstappen made his strategy work. Kimi Antonelli was defending against Lando, and Carlos Sainz was defending against Oscar Piastri. Because of that, when both of the McLaren drivers pitted in lap 25, it actually gave Verstappen a good amount of buffer to pull the gap ahead. That's actually how it worked. So Kimi Antonelli, great performance. Knowingly or unknowingly, he helped Max Verstappen. I think he could have he made a small mistake. It's a driving error and these things happen. But just imagine if he had finished P4. If he had finished P4 right outside the podium, right outside the podium positions, another solid performance. And Lando would lose 2 more points and the championship gap will be 10 points. That's all I can think about right now, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just going through all of the teams as rapidly as possible so that I can get to the title fight conversation, because that's the most interesting one. McLaren are literally don't get distracted. So anyway, Mercedes, great performance. Fucked up a little bit during the qualifying. That's why they couldn't maximize the results during the pace. I think they're gonna finish P2 solid in the constructor standings. All they need to do is they need to consistently pick up some extra points in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. I haven't checked the constructor standings per se, but I think they're good to go when it comes to having the P2, because they have outscored Max Verstappen in the Las Vegas Grand Prix with a double podium because of the McLaren disqualification. And Ferrari, they're going to take care of themselves. Ferrari are never in contention, and Red Bull is one-legged. So Mercedes, congratulations for finishing P2 in the constructor standings. Great performance by both of these guys. Andrea Kimi Antonelli is getting his mojo, and he is going to be George Russell's nightmare in 2026. If Kimi Antonelli is close enough to George Russell in 2026 in terms of performance, quali and race pace-wise, and scores around George Russell, God forbid if he scores more than Russell in the championship standings, but if he just is within the ballpark, then I don't think George Russell is going to get a bigger contract at Mercedes, because I think that's what Toto Wolff is going to do. He's going to keep Andrea Kimi Antonelli as the superstar driver, and the next guy who comes and replaces George Russell will be kind of like the sidekick, who helps the team get some secure amount of points, but is not going to threat Kimi Antonelli. That's what's going to happen. We move on. Williams. So, in the first half of the season, we had Carlos Sainz experiencing all forms of bad luck. And in the second half of the season, it has changed to Alexander Albon. There are only a few handful of races in which both of the Williams drivers had good performances and scored decent points. It's always the case. This is the ultimate Williams curse. Because when they have a good car, they won't have good drivers, they will crash here and there, they'll make some mistakes. That happened for many, many years with Williams. They had shit drivers for many, many years, paid drivers. And now that they have a decent car and two great, reliable drivers, they always had something. Because in the initial stages, you had the luck issue with Carlos Sainz. Then they had the cooling issue with both of the cars. Brake cooling issue and engine cooling issue. Then after that took a while for these guys to get sorted. And then they had a run of bad results because it was a series of bogey tracks for them. Now, in the trailing end of the season, the bad luck has transferred to Alexander Albon, and he's just DNFing the shit out of that car. So it is what it is, and he didn't DNF in particular, but he had good pace. He didn't make the most out of the pit stop situation. He just did his own race, got locked up into it, and the time when he went to the pits and did his pit stop, he pitted in the same lap as Max Verstappen, Alex Albon I'm talking about. But unfortunately, when he pitted, the pit lane was absolutely busy, so he lost some time there. And another problem is Alexander Albon's strategy. He started on the hard tires and had hard, medium, medium. Other people were doing medium, medium, hard. He should have started on the medium. He should have started on the medium because the hard tire was ultimately a good racing tire, and he should have used it when the car was lighter. Obviously, there was no way to know, but you should never start the race with a hot tire, even if you got nothing to lose. Because everyone would have ran those tires for 25 laps anyway. The medium tires were good for 25 laps. But yeah, the safety car kind of took him by surprise, and then after that, he was kind of locked into that strategy, so he had to do 2 sets of mediums, and the mediums were quick, but they wore off too quickly for Qatar. It is what it is. But Carlos Sainz, man, great performance. 2 podiums in a single season in his Williams debut. And that's the critical thing we all need to guys focus on, because a lot of the Sir Lewis Hamilton fans are giving the excuse that Lewis needs time to get used to the car. Look at Carlos Sainz. He is extremely comfortable in Williams. And from the get-go, he had pace. I am a Lewis Hamilton fan. I never gave that excuse, by the way. I said that he is washed, like a mature person would. Anyway, Carlos Sainz, great performance, getting the hang of Williams. I genuinely hope Williams turn things around massively. We don't want them to be in midfield anymore, because we got Alexander Albon, who has been on the podium when he was Max Verstappen's teammate in Red Bull. That's saying something. And then we also got Carlos Sainz, a proven race winner. Now he's dragging the Williams to the podiums by being opportunistic and, by executing races properly. So I hope that next year in 2026, it levels the playing field in the sense that it elevates Williams from P5 to the top 3 and 4 positions, because we want to see them in the mix and just get in the way of other people in the championship battle. That will be the most interesting and important thing. Anyway, we move on. Verstappen.com Racing. I know I should have changed it to Red Bull Racing because Yuki Tsunoda scored a point, but he's gonna get fired. We have news. It's unconfirmed by Red Bull, but Yuki Tsunoda is going to get fired at the end of 2025 Formula 1 season. I think we will see the announcement before the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Max Verstappen's new teammate is going to be Isaac Hadjar. good luck to him. And Arvind Lindblad, the crash-prone guy from F3, I think, he's going to be the new teammate of Liam Lawson. So Liam Lawson needs to get his shit together in the sense of qualifying, but his competition, who will be Arvind Lindblad, he's not that good anyway. I mean, from what we have seen in F3, I'm pretty sure Formula 1 is different ballpark and it can go either way. But Max Verstappen, another great performance, started P3, got a position right in the race, start of the race, had a great run into turn 1, put the pressure on Oscar Piastri as much as possible, and most importantly, got into the pits when needed. Big brain Hannah, big shout out to her. Hannah Smits, I think that's how you pronounce the last name. And she did a great job. One of the best strategists in Formula 1, in business, to execute these type of things. And they thought on their feet quickly, immediately. It's lap 7 plus 25 plus 20. Like, they did the math immediately. McLaren, these motherfuckers were stuck in their, corporate jargon of papaya rules, and they got fucked. So, Max Verstappen had a 25-second, not a 25-second, but like at least a 15-second lead by pitting during the safety car period. And after that, after he got the lead, all he had to do was manage his race, do his race pace, and pit in the right time and do the out laps and in laps properly, which he is a master of doing in free air. The thing is, what helped him even more are Carlos Sainz and Kimi Antonelli, because those two guys got in the way of the McLaren drivers, even before the first pit stop. They were ahead of the McLaren drivers, and both of the McLaren drivers struggled. So initially there was Piastri. So first there was Carlos Sainz, then Kimi Antonelli, then Piastri, then Norris. Piastri went through Kimi Antonelli, he overtook him, but he couldn't overtake Carlos Sainz. And you could visibly see, and I was screaming about this in the live stream, and you could visibly see that Piastri was losing time to Verstappen during that period of time, behind Carlos. Then, Lando Norris was stuck behind Kimi Antonelli. He was also visibly losing time to Max Verstappen during that phase of time. And I definitely believe that this helped Verstappen to extend his lead, have that cushion a little bit. I don't think he was ever in danger, because even after such a massive push from Oscar, and credit to him, when Oscar Piastri got out of the pits on hard tires, Verstappen was 18 seconds ahead. And at checkered flag, Verstappen was only 8 seconds ahead. So I think Piastri closed up by 10 seconds in 10 or so laps in Qatar, which is impressive to do. But at the same time, you have to understand that Verstappen was never really under threat. Like, even without Carlos Sainz and Kimi Antonelli getting in the way, Verstappen would have a few seconds at least ahead of both of the McLarens. But fortunately, because of Carlos Sainz and Kimi Antonelli, both of the McLarens are not on podium. It would have been worse for Verstappen, for us, in the championship picture, for Norris to be on podium. Norris should have been P5, but it is what it is. You cannot have all of the good things in the world. But still, Norris P4, now the championship gap is 12 points. Norris needs to be P4 again, or P5, or worse than that is better. And we are already ahead of Oscar Piastri. We are already 7 points ahead of Oscar Piastri, and we are equivalent on the wins. So, whoever wins. So Verstappen is going to win the 2025 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. I am believing it. There is nothing in the world that's going to stop Max Verstappen from winning the 2025 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Now it's all up to McLaren. It's all up to McLaren to not fuck it up. If the McLaren boys fuck it up and allow other people to get in the way, then they're cooked. I mean, they're just absolutely cooked. Lando Norris needs to finish P3 or above in order to become world champion, if my mathematics is correct, or something like that, whatever. But now I believe, under pressure, McLarens are going to make a mistake. It's going to happen. It's 100% true. It's going to happen. And we are going to win our 5th world title. We move on. I'll make another analysis of this. So McLaren, right? The second part of analysis. So we did the Max Verstappen thing. Now we will talk about the McLaren boys. It's basically, there's nothing much to say at this stage. In 2025 Formula 1 season, they had the fastest car. It was like Mercedes in 2014, 2015, 2016. It's like that. They should have won most of the races. And they should be so far ahead of Max Verstappen that even like entertaining the idea of Verstappen winning the fifth consecutive world title in 2025 should be absolute nonsense. They should be that ahead. But, because of their mistakes and the team shenanigans and, all those type of things, it's unbelievable that with the fastest car in the world, there is still a possibility in a 24 race long season in Formula 1 that neither of these two motherfuckers can win the world title. It is a sheer possibility. It's blowing my mind still. I cannot believe it. I myself, when I saw the results, I was actually watching the Qatar Grand Prix qualifying session. Yeah, I was live streaming, and in the middle of the live stream, I shut it down because I'm like, Verstappen is not going to be able to compete for pole position. It doesn't fucking matter. And I was right. He didn't get pole. Oscar Piastri did. Great job by Piastri. He drove a phenomenal. He was amazing throughout the entire weekend. My heart goes out for him. But this is Verstappen here. In the description of my channel, I wrote Oscar Piastri 2026 WDC. And somewhere in 2025, I thought that, maybe Oscar Piastri was going to win in 2025. But in reality, my prediction is always correct. So this time, right now, I'm predicting that Max Verstappen is going to win Abu Dhabi. Oscar Piastri will be like P3. And Lando Norris will have some issue in the initial part of the race. He will have a collision with someone and he will spin around and he will finish P7. Max Verstappen wins the race. He becomes the world championship. It's going to be insane. Media is going to have a field day. Both of the drivers are going to go home ashamed. And they will look back and see where they have missed those motherfucking points. The reality is simply, for Oscar Piastri at least, is that he is not consistent enough and quick enough in all of the races. His approach, I will dissect it very quickly right now. His approach is to just marginally beat his championship rivals, not win races. Verstappen's approach to winning a championship is like, if you win all the races, you become the championship. You win the championship. Oscar Piastri's approach is like, you need to beat your opponents in order to win the championship. There is a subtle difference in that. When your target is just to stay an inch ahead of both of your title rivals or all of your title rivals, and the other guy is thinking like, how can I just win every race? You have a disadvantage. And that's the big difference between Oscar Piastri and Max Verstappen. I hope he understands that. I hope Mark Webber drills it in his brain. That's the first and most important thing. The second thing about Lando Norris is that, it's just a skill issue. 7 years in Formula 1. The mistake he made in Canada, that was, I think, 14 points or something. And, it's just... and I think I would say, which race is it? Baku. Baku is a race where Lando Norris could have scored more points. Few other opportunities in which Lando's pace wasn't maximized, but compared to Oscar, he was actually the better man, especially in the trailing edge of the season. Great performance by him, although it's not going to be enough. And in the post-race, as Lando Norris took the checkered flag, he was radio silent. He was not saying anything. It was deafening silence. Oscar Piastri said, I'm speechless. I have no words, which is weird to say through words. But Lando was just absolute radio silence. He crossed the finish line and he was fucking pissed. Because it looked like Norris could have won. He started on the front row. He made his way to P2 after the pit stop shenanigans, obviously. And he looked competitive. It's just that McLaren fucked it up. And, Verstappen ran away with it. So... two huge mistakes in back-to-back race weekends. In Las Vegas, McLaren made a mistake, got both of their drivers disqualified. Absolutely fucking comical. Then, in Qatar, straightforward race, couldn't think on their feet, and they got screwed again. And another issue that happened with Lando Norris is that he was the trailing McLaren, and because of that, his strategy was not prioritized as much as Oscar Piastri. He couldn't beat ahead of Piastri. Piastri always got the preference. And because of that, Lando Norris couldn't even finish on the podium. He was P4 because of this. So he could have pipped both of these guys. He could have at least pitted and got out ahead of Kimi Antonelli and overtake Carlos Sainz on track. But that opportunity was just out of question for Lando Norris because he was the trailing McLaren and he didn't have the upper hand in the strategy game. So great job by McLaren to help Max Verstappen win his 5th world title. And it's incredible how they're doing it. What a great team. And excited for Abu Dhabi in a few days of time, and we're gonna win our 5th world title. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be nail biting, and a lot of us will have trouble sleeping the night before the race, but it's all part of the game. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.